Hello, everyone. Welcome to Kyron Horman Case Revisited. My name is Samantha, and I've got Kaylia with me again.
Hello, hello. Thanks for joining us as always.
I hope everyone is having a good Friday night. I'm super excited to have this live. I have been working on it for quite some time, so I'm just excited that I finally get to do it. We're going to be going over a lot of stuff. We're going to be going over, we'll try to get through all of the searches done on Kyron, but mostly want to talk about June 4th, 2010 and the month of June. And we will continue talking about other searches of Kyron. Yeah, just super excited. I've seriously been working on this particular live for probably 6 months.
Wow. Well, I'm super excited to be here tonight with you as well and go through that because, taking it way back to the very beginning, it really gets me right in the feels.
I know, and that video that I put together gets me in my feels. I started getting chills on me as it was playing, and because it just seriously breaks my heart what Desiree and Kane are going through.
Right.
I want to just start off with Kyron's flyer because that's who we're here to talk about. And since we're starting from the beginning, let's just talk about the beginning. Kyron came up missing from Portland, Oregon on June 4th, 2010 from his school's science fair. The last known person to see him was Terri Horman, Terry Vasquez now. And she's the last known person to see him, according to law enforcement. Kyron's never been found since. His parents don't know if he's dead or alive. And all they have done for the last 13, 14 years is wonder where Kyron is. And these parents deserve justice, and they deserve to know where their child is so that they can move on.
Right.
Because they're waking up every single day. They still have to work, and they have other children to take care of. So on top of everything else that they have to do and pay their bills and live their lives, they are still wondering about their child, and they're still searching for him. And they'll never stop searching for him. Both of them have said that.
It's an ache that'll never go away, especially when you don't know where he is.
Exactly. Now, I want to start off with a little clip that just talks about the summer of 2010.
Kyron's stepmom, Terri Horman, is the last known to have seen the boy alive around 8:45 a.m. at his school when she dropped him off for a science fair. By late afternoon, when he didn't get off the bus, a frantic search began, complete with robocalls from the school district.
If you have seen Kyron or have any information you think may be beneficial, please call Portland Police.
By nightfall, the sheriff's office was obviously worried.
He's a 7-year-old boy, and we want to have him found.
Days after the disappearance, with hundreds of tips but no solid leads, an emotional sheriff's spokesman revealed the impact of the case.
We're gonna bring you home, buddy. Nothing is more important to your family, your friends, and to us. So
we're going to cover this creek area here.
As the first week drew to a close, the search for Kyron was the biggest in state history. By the 4th of July, the case had taken a twist. Court documents claimed Terri Horman tried to hire someone to kill her husband, Kane. He moved out of the house. She hired a lawyer and fled to her parents' home in Roseburg. By the next day, Kyron's dad, Kane, and his birth mom, Desiree, accused the stepmom of not cooperating with the police, and Kane drops a bombshell.
I think everyone knows the fact that she's taken her two polygraphs. She has not passed those 2 polygraphs.
As the summer dragged on, the focus on finding Kyron expanded to include the stepmom's friend, Dee Dee Spicer, who was called in to testify in front of a grand jury investigating the case. By August, police were asking for the public's help to remember if they'd seen the Horman truck on the day of the disappearance. As the summer ended, the case made the news fewer and fewer times.
Yeah, it's so unfortunate that by the end of the summer, he wasn't getting very much awareness, and they are still looking, they are still searching for Kyron.
Yes, still
during that time.
Exactly. Never stopping, fighting in battle to protect Kane's other daughter, Kyron's younger sister. It was just a really busy, and I just cannot imagine I guess, I don't know how hard it would be to go through that, all of that. Missing a child, it's every parent's worst nightmare. And those
Yeah.
first few months were just navigating through unknown waters day after day after day. It's just unimaginable. And my heart just goes out to both of them. Even after all these years, it just, I can't imagine. It gets even much easier even as time passes. It's still devastating.
Yeah, I mean, your son has came up missing. You are having to put together searches. You're searching. You're getting flyers, buttons, bracelets. The community was amazing coming out and being there for Kyron. Like, they had so much help, they started having to refuse help. But that entire area went crazy looking for Kyron. And, Desiree and Kane had to still do, their everyday things. I think Desiree was in town for a few weeks before she finally went back home. But those few weeks in town, first being at Kane's house, staying there for a little while, and then getting a hotel. But knowing your son's gone, but having to suck it up and do everything you can to start the process of looking for your son, which is not an easy process to do. There are so many phone calls that have to be made to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. And then you get together with counselors and they help you and teach you how to bring awareness for your child. And try syncing, you have to sync all that information in and then put it to work to find your son while you're trying to keep it together because you don't know where Kyron is.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and they never gave up, never stopped searching for years later. I mean, a whole decade and almost, unfortunately, we're close to a decade and a half. And they're still raising awareness for him and doing things in his name to keep his name out there. And
Swan says, "Hey ladies, you both do a great job together talking about cases together." Well, thank you. Thank you so much. We try really hard.
Glad you're here too. Thanks for joining us tonight. And if we have other viewers, you're welcome to join along in the comments. We love to answer questions that we know the answers to, at least. And also, this was another spur of the moment live, so be sure you subscribe if you haven't already.
So we're going to briefly go over the moments in the morning. It's June 4th, 2010. Kyron, Terri, and the baby Kitty, that's her nickname because we're not going to put her name on here. They all get ready and go up to the school, and they show up shortly after 8 a.m. According to Terri Horman, about 8:15. So we'll stick with about 8:15. Somewhere along that morning, Terri takes the picture of Kyron in front of a science fair project. and there are witnesses there that see her take the picture. There were rumors going around that it was a fake picture. It wasn't a fake picture. Witnesses did see her take the picture, and she also took several pictures of other children that were there at the school. And then about 8:45 to 8:50, Terri leaves the school. Witnesses have came forward and said that they saw Kyron walking behind Terri and the baby, walking to the truck and leaving the school. Terri was the last known person to see Kyron, according to law enforcement. Terri then starts off her day. She says she went to 2 different Fred Meyers looking for Tylenol or Motrin for her daughter, Kitty, because she had an earache. From there, we know that she did go to the dry cleaners. She had at once said that she went to the Michael's Craft Store after the cleaners, but we now know that that is not true because Desiree has spoke about it before on the news. After that, she drives around with Kitty in the car. There's been several times. The book, Boy Missing, by Rebecca Morris, that was written by Rebecca Morris, and Desiree Young also helped her write the book, says that Terri was missing 2.5 to 3 hours. After she drives around with the baby, she goes to the gym. We now have her clocking in at the gym because of camera footage at 12:20 p.m., even though there's lots of times because Terri Horman first said 11:39. The footage says 12:20. After that, she goes home. Kane comes home because he comes home and works sometimes at home. And they all walk together about 3:15. And here's where the story about Kyron really comes in, when they start figuring out he's not on the bus. So at 3:15 p.m., Kane, Terri, and Kitty walk down to the road to meet Kyron's bus. All of the other neighborhood kids were getting off of the bus, but Kyron wasn't getting off of the bus. So Kane asked the bus driver to phone the school. The driver made a call up to the school and relayed the news to Kane that Kyron wasn't there. Kane, Terri, and Kayla left immediately to go to the school. So Kane's bus usually comes about 3:30 p.m. and he's not on the bus. Kane and Terri arrived at the school at 3:56 p.m. The school then called 911. Police were dispatched at 3:59 p.m. and the police told the school secretary to make the emergency notifications and to call Kyron's mother. The secretary called Desiree at 4:24 p.m. At 4:33 p.m., additional officers from the Portland Police Bureau and the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office arrived at both Skyline Elementary and Kane's house. So now you've got law enforcement up at the school and law enforcement at Kyron's house. At 5:30 p.m., a message was sent by Portland Police Schools to phones of families across the school district stating that Kyron Horman, a second grader at Skyline Elementary, had not arrived home. So that call that you heard earlier, you are now, parents are starting to get this phone call coming in because no Amber Alert was issued for Kyron. This was the only alert thing that they had at the time. At 7 p.m., Multnomah County Sheriff's Detective Sergeant Lee Gosson alerted Sergeant Travis Goldberg, the county's on-call coordinator for search and rescue efforts, of the need to begin a formal missing person search for Kyron. A few minutes later, Lieutenant Mary Lindstrad, the sheriff's office person began to return calls to the media and arranged for them to come to the school between 7 p.m. and 7:45 p.m. Sheriff Dan Statton called the FBI to notify them of Kyron's disappearance. So now law enforcement's been called. They're getting ready. They're setting everything up. Dan Statton, the sheriff, he is getting the FBI involved. Things are getting real right about now. Really getting real.
Right. He's not coming up. He's not, you know, oh, I was hiding, or I wandered and I came back. You know, things, they're really, really deploying the efforts and saying, hey, we need as much coverage as we can for this kid.
Right. Exactly. I mean, how horrifying. That would just be horrifying. As a parent, being up at the school, all of this is going on, I would be completely horrified.
Oh, it's every parent's worst nightmare. Come true. That's why, you know, you named it this. I mean, it truly, truly is.
Yeah. So the first search team arrived at Skyline School at 8:09 p.m. Do you guys hear that? So when he doesn't get off of the bus at 3:30, Kyron has already been missing almost 6 hours. And the real search, the first search team arrived at the school at 8:09 p.m. We're talking almost 12 hours exactly
It's
that
just
he's
such
been gone, like
tragic.
off for half an hour.
Yes,
12 hours he's been gone.
That it really, really, really is so unfortunate for his case and for him.
Yeah, I mean, the weather had been crappy. We're talking there had even been thunderstorms, heavy rain. It had been like really wet. We'll get into like more of the weather system shortly. But shortly after 8:09 p.m., at 8:15 p.m., Lieutenant Mary Lindstrid also arrived at the school and met with those present because she's there meeting up with the media and everybody else. She then began emailing a photo of Kyron to the local media. Deputy Mark Heron, the search and rescue coordinator, arrived at 8:25 p.m. At 9:38 p.m., it is dark outside, and Desiree arrives in Portland. She arrives at Kane's house. In the book, it says, the road dipped, then climbed. Suddenly the night sky changed from pitch black to bright. Whatever the lighting up in the sky, there was an urgency to it. The lights in the sky shouted, something important is happening here. Come see. As they looked to the east, they could see the source of the lights. The school's parking lot had become a command center for law enforcement. Huge RVs filled the parking lot area. Other vehicles were parked across the road at the historic Brook Hill Church and at a nearby fire station. The light in the sky was created by generators, headlights, stadium lights, searchlights, and helicopters shining lights on nearby woods. Inside the 2-story brick school, every light blazed. Media satellite trucks and their dishes pointed at the sky, hogged what little room there was on the side of Skyline Boulevard. Other vehicles clogged Northwest Cornelius Pass Road up and to beyond the turnoff to Kyron Horman's house. It was not a good sign that it was dark and Kyron had not been found. Could you imagine even you're pulling in, you're on a country road, it's pitch dark, you know, pitch black out in the middle of nowhere here anyway. And all of a sudden you just see all these bright lights and everything shining, and you know exactly what it is. And it even says in the book, Desiree's first reaction was going to the school, but Tony was like, no, we got to go to the house, because he knows, because he's a detective, that they've got to get to the house to start talking to law enforcement immediately.
Right. I think I would do the same exact thing as Desiree. I would probably be immediately drawn to the last place he was seen. You know, I would want to go and look myself. I wouldn't trust anybody. Like, where is my son? Ugh, just devastating.
And so at 9:48 p.m., Mountain Wave, an emergency communications and search and rescue group based in Gresham, arrives at the school. And at 10:40 p.m., officers reported that they had completed a search at Skyline School, including all of the crawl spaces, storage areas, classrooms, and outbuildings. They had also searched the Horman house and the property. Now, here I found something really interesting tonight while I was looking into this. It says, because everybody knows the picture of Kyron standing behind his science fair project. If you follow the case, it was the last picture ever taken of Kyron. Well, it says in the book that there was a brief flurry when someone pointed out that a man wearing a plaid shirt was in the background of the picture of Kyron. And law enforcement looked into him, found out he was a parent, and he ended up being cleared. And there's just been a lot of talk about this man in a plaid shirt, who's the guy in the background, on a lot of groups and a lot of people. They've talked about this guy and who it could have been. So I just found it kind of interesting that he was actually, looked at, that he was a parent, and he was cleared.
Right. They recognized him. I'm honestly sure that we know that they asked a lot of students and families to turn in photos. So yeah, they were probably going through all the photos they could and trying to identify anybody there and talking to anyone in photos and clearing the people that were in the background of any photos they could get their hands on.
Exactly. I mean, I know that the news had taken the picture from like the yearbook, or not the yearbook, the school picture, and was putting that out on the news, because I don't think that the science fair picture had been put out there yet. That was the first picture that I seen, was the picture of him at school that year.
Yeah. As a side note, if we're going to talk about just kind of side things here, Terri befriended blogger Blink on Crime. We've talked about this in past lives. And Blink on Crime says that Terri and Mrs. Porter got into a confrontation when Terri and Kane went to the school to look for Kyron. And it makes me wonder, how did that confrontation go? Why was it the confrontation? She said that Blink on Crime is the one who says this again. So I don't know if it's true, but I think that it either is made up from Blink on Crime or Terri told Blink on Crime this. But Terri had to be held back. And it's like, okay, Terry's going to like attack Mrs. Porter over whatever confrontation happened here. It makes me wonder what was said. Was it Miss Porter saying, no, you told me, or he was with you. No, he went to the doctors with you. And I mean, how did that escalate to a point where Terri was gonna?
Well, you can pretty much assume that the conversation had to go along the lines of that doctor's appointment, because Miss Porter has said that that's what she was told, that Terri told her Kyron had a doctor's appointment that day, and that was the reason why she wasn't concerned when Kyron wasn't in class that day.
Right.
So law enforcement's looking for this child. They can't find him. She's feeling under pressure, and she probably mentions it. And of course, Terri being Terri, she's got to blow up, go off the handle or whatever. That's interesting, though, about the attacking.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was interesting to read. And yeah, and also second point is another thing Blink on Crime says is that Kane didn't know about the doctor's appointment until the 5th or the 6th. So it makes me wonder if, I don't know. That's according to, we all know, or allegedly, you know, according to Desiree, there was no doctor's appointment. But why, if we're going to go by Blink on Crime, who's friends with Terri, why would Kane not know about the doctor's appointment until the day after or 2 days after after Kyron disappeared, if that's the whole confusion? It makes me wonder, was she completely denying it and then switched the story under pressure? You know, that was one of the changes of stories. No,
Right.
because Desiree said on the first night she was able to confirm there was no doctor. So I don't know.
Right.
It's definitely
Desiree
a
said
weird.
that she was able to confirm that doctor's appointment because they had to have her fill out an affidavit to release medical information, medical records to find out about this doctor's appointment.
Yeah. We could probably do a whole live about what Blink on Crime says about the doctor's appointment, because it would expose a lot of holes in the doctor's appointment story. And again, like I said, it's either Blink on Crime making it up or she's getting the information from Terri and it's made up.
Right.
So it's hard to keep the story straight when it's made up.
So now we're looking at Desiree is in town. They're looking for Kyron. And at 10:44 p.m., a tipster calls 911 to make sure that officers have checked the train tunnel in the area near the school. And the caller said that sometimes kids play in there and wanted to make sure that someone was checking that tunnel out. That tunnel is in one of our videos. If you want to go search for it, I went there and found the tunnel and did a little report on it. Desiree, Tony, and Quinn, they all ended up staying the night. Desiree didn't have a clue they were going to end up staying the night. They thought, you know, they're going to find Kyron and they're going to be able to go home and not a big deal. But they get Desiree and Tony get woken up at 2 a.m. Well, not woken up. They're just on the couch. But at 2 a.m. in the morning, Desiree and Tony were both taken into the command center at the school. And when they left, the sun was coming up.
Wow.
When they were leaving the school. I mean, they stopped searching briefly at 3:30 a.m. in the morning and then picked the search back up at 5 a.m. in the morning. So you've already been interrogated. She was interrogated for about 2.5 hours. He was interrogated for a little while. She went in after Tony. So now we're on the morning of June 5th. And I just want to play a clip because it talks about June 5th. It talks about Terri and things that she was doing on June 5th that we're going to briefly go over.
When did you become suspicious of her?
First polygraph results came back. She was very vocal with everyone in the entire house about how it went, how that she failed. And then the actions after that, and the discussions that we had trying to understand what happened that day, she would change her story daily, if not more than that. I mean, every time you talk to her, it was a little bit different about, well, here's what happened that day. And it, you know, you kind of look at her going, you know, we have a major crisis here and you don't even have a story that's believable at this point.
So right now they're saying, you know, her story started changing immediately. And we know they honed in on her fairly quickly. I've got a lot of different clips that will talk about when they honed in on her. But I mean, yeah, she's failing polygraph test and she is changing her story sometimes multiple times a day. You know, we have talked about before how on June 5th, a lot happened. This is just a little bit of the emails that she sent out, you know, because somebody had came forward, given news, you know, emails between Terri and them, themselves. It was a friend of Terri that gave up these emails. And here she is talking about this male chaperone and the fact that, he had 2 girls with them and there was no male chaperone. And we have proven on Terry's controlling the narrative. We've pointed this out. This is exactly what she's doing right now. It's the day after, and she's literally already trying to control the narrative to throw people off.
Yeah, absolutely. That is exactly what she's trying to do. As you pointed out earlier, they had identified and cleared that person that was in the back of the photo. So I'm sure they would, they would look for. Okay, let me back up. I've thought about this to myself. I've thought about posting about this point right here. Somebody pointed this out to her, or she made this up. Okay, these are the only 2 scenarios. Somebody gave her this information, or she made this up.
Mm-hmm.
And let's just say somebody gave her this information. That means it's being looked into. They're going to identify who are those 2 girls, and why have we never heard of these 2 girls on the witnesses list, yet we know of many other student witnesses that day, yet these 2 girls have never been talked about, discussed, yet these are Terry's own words. And either she made this up or somebody told her this that is involved in the investigation that was there that day.
Yeah, and I mean, in the book, when I was looking up timelines and everything, and I got that little timeline from in here, it was interesting to see that, Terri had spoken about several things. Let me just see if I can find it real quick, because I found that really interesting too.
While you look for that, I would just like to remind our viewers and our replay watchers that Terri, if we want to believe the narrative that Terri has told Link on Crime and other supporters throughout the years, Terri allegedly knows what this mysterious man looks like. That doesn't mean she knows who he is. I'm not saying that she would know who he is, but she would know what he would look like. And I know this because there's been discussion about that, and there's confirmation about that online from past, years and years past. So why has Terri never once stepped forward and given this description of this mysterious man that she talked about on day 1?
Sit down with someone and have them draw a picture of the guy that you saw with the 2 little girls or something. Come forward. Right. I found it. It says right here, Terri had some theories of her own. There was a janitor whom she found suspicious. Maybe Kyron had gone outside to play or to look for a tree frog to add to his science exhibit. Or maybe he had left to explore some horse barns a couple of miles away. Desiree knew that was ridiculous because, it's been spoken of by Kane and Desiree that he was really super shy. He was scared to be too far away from his mom and stuff. He was scared to be away from groups of people because he couldn't see very well, even with his glasses on. And he wouldn't have left the school with anybody because everybody knows everybody would have noticed if he was leaving with a stranger, and that's just not something he would have done because he's just so shy and timid, and it just wasn't in his mannerism to do something like that. So
right. Yep. It would be extremely out of character. I also have a 7-year-old who's in 2nd grade. And yeah, I mean, at that age, they are totally aware of stranger danger. They're totally aware of following the rules, and they're not at that stage where they would do that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's finish watching the clip. Yeah, you're sending emails. You're thinking about yourself the day after Kyron comes up missing, and in these emails, you're not even mentioning him. It's 24 hours gone by, and no one's seen Kyron. I'm not even going to mention him. I'm just going to talk about myself and put she's deflecting. She's just deflecting.
In search, she says, of medication for her daughter Kiara, who had an ear infection. She claims she then drove back roads trying to soothe boy missing.
Yeah, I thought that was just so crazy to hear Bruce McCain say that. Like, he said that this could draw out for decades.
Right. He has the experience, and he's probably he probably saw as soon as Terri stopped talking, it made it really hard. I mean, honestly, when suspects talk themselves into a corner, that's a lot of, obviously, giving into pressure. Terri didn't give in to the pressure. She got a lawyer, and he totally saw that and saw it could go on for decades, in his professional opinion.
Mm-hmm. And to talk about, I mean, when some missing people go missing, they have cell phones, and they, so law enforcement's able to track them down. And basically what Bruce McCain was saying was how difficult that was going to be, because Kyron wasn't carrying around a cell phone. He didn't have bank cards to be out spending money. He, there was nothing to track him down but the words of the people that were around him, witnesses coming forward, Terri Horman and her statements, talking with Kane, about what happened that morning, and so on. I mean, that's how you have to go about trying to find Kyron, because there's no, link to him as far as like electronical links.
Right.
And now we're going to go over a couple of things that Rebecca Morris says, which is the Arthur of Boy Missing.
The search for Kyron Horman details the circumstantial evidence surrounding Terri Horman, including claims that several witnesses saw Kyron leave the school with Terri Horman on June 4th, 2010.
Literally, one of the adults said they weren't holding hands walking out together, but they left the school together.
Author Rebecca Morris wrote Terri acted suspicious and washed Kyron's dirty laundry and his backpack and jacket the day he disappeared. Previously, Terri has admitted failing lie detector tests, and family members claim, unlike others, Terri had a difficult time piecing together her whereabouts on June 4th.
So Terri Horman was the last person to see Kyron. We know that she drove to the two Fred Meyer stores to look for cold medicine, that she parked a ways away where the cameras really couldn't see, into the truck. It's possible somebody saw them alongside a road or on Sauvie Island, or even her getting out of the truck at Fred Meyer. There was, at the second Fred Meyer, there was somebody, she asked directions from inside the store, but it just seems like there's no doubt that she was the last person to see Kyron, and he was in her care.
Your book suggests, and we've heard this before, that there was a lot of suspicion around Terri from the first few hours of this investigation. What you point out, which is intriguing, is the role that Kane may have played in this investigation, specifically wearing a wire. Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit about that. I mean, that's an interesting detail.
Yeah. Well, very quickly, the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office zeroed in on Terri. In fact, even one of the people I write about in the book, who was involved with the school and knew Terri through Skyline School, she was interviewed on Sunday by the police, and she was asked on Sunday, so 2 days after he's been missing, do you think Terri Horman took Kyron? That is very early in an investigation to kind of ask people what they thought. So they zeroed in on her, and around that time, around the second or third day, they asked Kane to wear a wire, and he did. And the downside of that, according to some of the detectives that were there observing, is that you're sort of putting all your eggs in one basket right away by having a potential family member or suspect on your team. But of course it was okay. And by getting Kane involved in the investigation, wearing the wire, etc., they could have him more easily sign off on search warrants and the taking of his truck several times to search it, to put a GPS tracking device on the truck, etc.
So now you're hearing Kane was wired up. They put a GPS tracker on his truck. His truck was searched multiple times. And this is within just the weekend that Kyron came up missing. They're already honing in on Terri. And you have to remember why. It's not, police investigators not doing their job. They're doing it too soon. She was changing her stories. And if you're a true crime junkie, if you watch true crime shows and stuff, you will know if there is somebody in the family, who they're going to look out first. When a child comes up missing, when someone ends up dead, it's usually the family members that are spoken with first, so law enforcement can rule them out to move along, unless there's some reason that they stand still and start looking at a person. And one of those reasons why is one of the people in the family isn't being straight. They're changing their story. And like you heard Kane say earlier, she's changing her story, and she's changing her story sometimes multiple times a day. So why Terri thought she wasn't going to be honed in on early, I have no clue. Tony sat down, told the entire family, none of us are going to have secrets anymore. None of us. They're going to come at us with both barrels. They're going to find out everything there is to know about us. We're going to be in the spotlight. And at that time, Terri was the only person that acted pissy about that. She did not like that at all. Why wouldn't you like that? Why wouldn't you just want to be like, okay, give me a lie detector test. Okay, do what you got to do, question me, and move on. And move on from me.
Yeah, exactly.
We've got Karen Reap here, Swan here. We've got Zane Lilly here, waving at us. Hello, hun. Thanks, everyone, for coming. And then I'm going to go ahead and just finish out this last little bit of the clip.
Both Young and Kyron's dad, Kyron Horman, believe Terri Horman had something to do with her stepson's disappearance. So far, she has not been labeled a suspect or person of interest.
It wasn't a stranger that came into Kyron's school and took him. It was someone we knew in our trusted circle.
And Kyron's parents believe someone else may have also been involved.
We firmly believe that Terri has worked with people on this, had help after the fact.
We need investigators to continue to focus on other avenues that might reveal who those person or persons are.
Persons or persons. We have all heard about Dee Dee Spicer. If you follow the case, that's Terry's friend. They met in 2002, so they knew each other for about 8 years. Dee Dee and Terri both said that they hadn't seen each other since March of 2010 at Terry's birthday party, but there are several things that have came out that kind of had pinpointed them. One of them being that Desiree mentions that on June 4th, 2010, there were burner phones being used on June 4th, 2010. Again, if you want to find out all of the information, past information about most of this, we have talked about this in our other lives. And you can go back and rewatch them. We can't recap all of that right now. But yeah, and it could be someone else besides.
Well, since all of this has come out, there is a page that, I would call like an official page for Kyron Horman that says that Dee Dee Spicer actually is the one who unalived Kyron for Terri. And there's evidence of this. So this is coming through the family, apparently. And, there's no actual proof that any of us can see of this. This is just something that's coming from the official page. But, if there's another person involved, I think it's a safe bet to say it would be Dee Dee Spicer, according to the family and the official Facebook group or Facebook page for Kyron, or one of the official, I should say.
But we've gone over all of June 4th and, what happened the day of June 4th. And now we're going to go over June 5th. June 5th is the day that Terri is out there sending out emails. She's talking about herself. She's not talking about Kyron. She's changing her stories. Things aren't adding up for her. The search continues on June 5th in the 2-mile radius around the school. But there was a tip that came in. Kelly, who lives about 1.5 miles downhill at the end of a windy road, it's a secluded country lane off of Cornelius Pass. Federal agents, K-9 teams, and helicopters scoured the area on Saturday. Kelly says we had 2 odd sightings of a vehicle on our road Friday. Kelly said one was about 3 p.m. in the afternoon, and the other one was 2 a.m. in the morning. And it was a white pickup truck with a female driver, and she had pulled in to the end of the road and just idled and then turned around. And it was the same of a similar or same white truck that appeared at 2 a.m. in the morning. And what is crazy about this is that 3 p.m. is a half hour before Kyron comes up missing. There's a white truck parked down at the end of the road, and it idles and it sits down there. We know that it isn't Terri. There's been speculation that Dee Dee could have borrowed her brother's white pickup truck, or this could have been the person involved with Kyron's disappearance, because then again at 2 a.m. in the morning, this is when Desiree and Tony are getting ready to leave and go be questioned up at the school. This truck comes back down. And the thing that's interesting about this is a very rural road. You're not just going to go down it. I mean, Jim Kelly has mentioned before that maybe a few times a year, a person gets lost and ends up at the end of this dead end street in the middle of the country. So the fact that a white truck driven by a lady happens 2 times around the same time that Kyron comes up missing, they send out K-9 federal agents. I mean, and this area was searched the day after Kyron came up missing. He did say it was a little strange to have a car there, or any car there. I believe he meant to say truck. And B, it was strange to have a vehicle come down the dead-end road twice in the same day, hours after a little boy goes missing. And it is beyond rare to see any vehicles down our dead-end road. Kelly said that authorities have twice searched the deep ravine, creek, and railroad tracks that are located near the end of his street, by air and by foot. So, I mean, this was a real, area. This is something they really looked into, this tip that came from Jim Kelly. And so they got a tip. They search around Jim Kelly's house. Like I said, right down the road from Terry's house. It took me about a minute to drive from Jim Kelly's house to Kyron's house. That's how close it is. I've done a video of it. Once again, if you go watch the woman in the white truck live, we go over the witness here. And they are searching the 2-hour radius and still at the Horman home searching. And this is the day after Kyron come up missing. So Sunday, June 6th, heavy rains have turned into lighter showers as Yamhill County Search and Rescue Team prepared to give reporters a glimpse of the grid searching that was going on around the 2-mile radius of Skyline Elementary School. It's mentioning that heavy rains had turned to lighter showers. At the end of May, beginning of June, there were close to 5 inches of rain that fell. It was record-breaking rain at the end of May, beginning of June. So when they're out there searching, it's sopping wet. And we're talking rainforest area. A rainforest sits behind Skyline Elementary School. If you pay attention to the screen while I'm going on, you can actually see the school and see the forest area behind the school and get a, good idea of what kind of area they're searching. So it's sopping wet. At 12:10 p.m. on the 6th, relatives began to start distributing missing person flyers with a photo of Kyron and description of him and what he looks like, his age and whatnot. At 10:35 a.m., 58 trained volunteers with Sheriff Department and Washington, Multnomah, Clark County, Yamhill counties coupled. Now, Clark County is where I live in Vancouver, Washington. So now we're talking this search has gotten gigantic. They're asking other counties. They're even, there were counties from California that eventually come in. Has coupled with additional searches from Portland Mountain Rescue, Silver City, and Portland. Northwest Search and Rescue was expected to continue into the night on the 6th, said the Sergeant Diana Olson. And at 10:25 a.m. Saturday's search of the school, and it's sorry, I didn't mean to backtrack. So also on June 6, 2010, that morning, the FBI announced that they had brought in Quantico VIA-based profiler to create a profile of Kyron, or the profile of Kyron, and they're just doing everything they can to make these missing flyers come out and everything. So the Multnomah County Sheriff's escalated Kyron's disappearance to a missing endangered child case at 9 p.m., but did not call it a kidnapping. So they're still not calling it a kidnapping on Sunday, June 6th. On Monday, June 7th, in the early morning, 18 certified search and rescue volunteers resumed sweeping the area near the school, and as deputies canvassed the neighborhood, handing out flyers and jotting down license plate numbers and passing vehicles along Northwest Skyline Boulevard. They're putting up roadblocks, like they're doing everything they can to stop people, talk to them, find out if they've seen anything at all in the area. On June 8th, search and rescue crews resumed their search, and a reward fund was created and was announced on Facebook. Going back to Monday, June 7th, that's when Terri took her first polygraph. Is that right, Kalia?
Yeah, I believe it was Monday, June 7th.
Yeah, it was on Monday. She had taken her polygraph test. She had failed. She came home screaming and yelling about it. She didn't like it. She literally was telling people that she was done cooperating. She didn't want to do it anymore. We're talking 3 days later, and she's spouting off about how she doesn't want to cooperate anymore. And they later on have to get together and,
like beg
how
her.
do you call it? Yeah.
I like intervention style. They're all sitting in Kyron's room. This is how it's described in the book, and I've also read it in news articles, or heard it in an interview, excuse me, where they were all sitting in Kyron's room, Tony, Desiree, and Kane, and they bring Terri in and they ask her and plead with her and beg with her to please take another polygraph. They didn't understand why she wouldn't. They all passed theirs. So they didn't understand. Back then, she wasn't saying, I'm failing because I'm deaf in one ear. That was never something she was saying. So they were understanding it. To them, it was just, oh, she's failing. Her story is changing. And now she's saying, F this. I'm not going to help anymore. I'm not going to cooperate anymore.
And I
There,
just want to point out something too. Like, I don't know if you guys follow the Casey Anthony case, and her parents just came out. They did lie detector tests and stuff. I don't know if you guys had watched it, but I watched that show, and then I've also been listening to Stacey Wandra, and he's a suspect in the Michael Vaughn case, talk about the questions that he was asked during his polygraph. And from what I'm starting to understand, and because I also ended up doing a little bit of research, law enforcement usually only asks you 4 to 6 questions. Okay. And out of those 4 to 6 questions, usually 2 or 3 of them are like, what's the color of the wall? And you can say that it's yellow because it's a yellow wall. And then they'll ask you like what your birth date is, or they'll ask you something that they know you're going to know the truth of, so that they can kind of get an idea about, how nervous you are, how you're paying attention, like those kinds of things. And then they ask the serious questions. So the serious questions in this case with Terri were probably, do you know what happened to Kyron? That would probably be one of the 3. I'm not going to come up with another couple, but that would be one. But these are all going to be questions regarding Kyron, where he's at, if she knows anything about it, pretty much. And she failed these polygraphs. And yes, they're not municipal in court, but guess what? Even though they're not, they are still used by law enforcement as a tool. So law enforcement can rule out suspects when they see deceit, or when they can rule them out if they don't see deceit, and they can focus on somebody if they do see deceit in polygraphs. And if polygraphs didn't work the majority of the time, I'm just going to say they wouldn't still be using it for a tool.
exactly. Yep. It would not be in their arsenal of tools. That's a perfect example, or a perfect way to say it. They wouldn't even waste their time if it didn't give them some sort of value.
Exactly. Hello, Callie. Nice to see you here. We're making all kinds of new friends lately. I love it. Thanks everybody for coming in. Let me read your comment here, Sherry, before I put you up. Terri stated, was mistakenly heard the doctor's appointment was for Kyron, but it was for her daughter, yet she never took her daughter to a doctor's appointment. Well, she took her daughter to a doctor's appointment on the 3rd because she had ran out of her amoxicillin and her ears were still hurting. So she wanted the doctor to just see what was going on with her. And the doctor recommended her going and getting like some Tylenol or Motrin. So that's kind of what's going on with the doctor's appointment thing. And the dogs used are not picking up his scent. Where did Kyron go? Right. I mean, gosh, I really wish they would have talked more about the scent dogs. Because they had them up at the school. And it's never been out anywhere that the dogs hit on anything or didn't hit on anything. Ever, never been talking. And that's probably information they're keeping close to the vest, because the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office has done that with a lot of information. So that was Monday, June 7th. Terri goes in, she takes a polygraph test. So on June 8th, we've got searchers and crews, resuming their search. The reward fund has been created, and it's also announced on Facebook. On Wednesday, June 9th, there was a statement released. The Horman family, who had initially refused to speak with the media, released a statement. Kyron's family would like to thank people for the support and interest in finding their son. The outpouring of support and continued effort strengthens their hope. We need for folks to continue to assist us in our goal. Please search your properties, cars, outbuildings, sheds, etc. Also, check with neighbors and friends who may have been on vacation or may need assistance in searching. There are a lot of resources here to help you search, so please don't stop. It is obvious a difficult time obviously a difficult time, and they want to speak to the public so you can hear it from Kyron's family as they come together to share their message. Their objective is to keep the focus on Kyron and not about anything else. So they're just saying, like, search, search, search. We're talking in the middle of nowhere. We're country. We've got barns. We've got horse stables. Just, there are so many different pumpkin patches and big flower gardens everywhere, just like West Wind Farms, where Dee Dee Spicer worked, was, it had lavender fields. That was a huge piece of property, but you have a lot of different gardening going on, farming equipment going on, wells, everything. So they're really like, please search your property. On June 10th, search and rescue crews continue their search again in that 2-mile radius. And then on the 11th, the search resumed at 10 a.m. in the morning and was expanded to Sauvie Island. Now, we've heard a lot about Sauvie Island. One of the things we heard in the beginning of all of this was that Sauvie Island had a camera on it to see people that were coming and going. And it did, until they rebuilt the bridge and they had to take down the camera. That was in 2008. So the cameras didn't go up again until 2013. We've also proven this. There's a couple of things you can watch on the Sauvie Island Bridge if you want to watch it. So now Saturday, June 12th, there are 300 trained rescuers on the ground searching wooded areas near the school. The search for Kyron, which has now spanned over the last 10 days, turned into the largest search in Oregon's history. Sunday, June 13th, the search resumed early in the day, but at noon, the sheriff's office announced at a news briefing that a massive search for Kyron was ended, and the case was shifting to a criminal investigation. So now it's criminal. And what we do know now is that it turned into the biggest criminal investigation in Oregon's history. Now, I wanted everybody to take a look at this news conference. If you're familiar with Kyron's case, you've probably seen it, and it's in that one awkward moment where Terri decides to hang all over Desiree Young.
Hello, my name is Tony Young, and I'm Kyron's stepfather. The family's asked me to speak on their behalf today. I would just like to say, Kyron, we miss you, we love you, and we need you home right now. We're doing everything we can to work with law enforcement and the search and the rescue crews to make sure that you can get back to us as soon as possible. We want to say how much we appreciate the outpouring of love and support, prayer and thoughts as we wait for you. Your school friends and their families, the teachers, the staff at your school, and the community as a whole have shown how much impact one little boy's smile can have on a community. You mean everything to us, and until you come home, this family is not complete. Please, Kyron, keep up the hope. We believe in you, and we know you will be back with us soon. I'd like to now introduce Kyron's father, Kyron Horman.
Hi, I'm Kane. I'm Kyron's father. We want to thank the community, the parents, the children, bus drivers, and all of those who are being interviewed multiple times to help find Kyron. Thank you. We as the family know how difficult and stressful this is, but your memories and statements can help us find Kyron. We will never be able to thank you enough for that help. Finally, we would like to thank the media. If it was not for you showing Kyron on every newscast, printing his story in the papers, his face would not be known to everyone. People from around the nation have seen his picture. This helps tremendously. Please help us bring Kyron home.
That hug between Kane and Tony breaks my heart every time.
Yeah, that was, you know, it looked emotional, and Tony talked a little about it in the book Boy Missing, about how that was really hard for him. And he's stepped up in a time where the family really needed somebody. They didn't know what to say. And in my opinion, I've thought a lot about this because this news conference wasn't for, like, I don't know, a week or something after Kyron disappeared. And it's kind of abnormal for that to happen in missing children cases. So it just kind of confirms the thought that I've had that, like, they were really trying to play good cop with Terri.
Mm-hmm.
That they were really trying to play good cop with Terri, and that is why, like, everything felt so kind of like almost like not scripted. I mean, obviously those speeches were scripted, they were reading, but also like standing on a stage in front of all the media. They called all the media there and stuff like that because people were like waiting and wanting to hear from the family. And it really did confirm that to me, that, like, you know, they were really trying to just play good cop with Terri and get her to cooperate, and I don't know, get as much information from her without bad cop making her flip. Because I guess maybe it's because she was right off the bat saying, I'm not going to cooperate. And so they're like, she's sensitive.
She's saying on the 7th, 3 days after he's missing, I'm done cooperating with police. I'm not doing it anymore. I failed a polygraph test. Like, she's hollering it from the rooftops. How she doesn't want to anymore.
So they're like, we got to be delicate with her. So they just were, and so that's why, you know, they had Kane wear a wire, because they just, were trying to delicately obtain as much information as long as they could before they lost that source, because a lot of times it's suspects slipping up that get themselves caught. And
Karen says, I hate the way she's hugging on Desiree in that clip. I do too. And
It's
one of the
cringy.
ones that bothers me. I mean, you have all of the pictures that's been taken and posted up by everybody that follows this case, you know, because it's just an uncomfortable thing. I actually found a clip. Desiree describes that moment, so I'll be playing that here in a little bit. Kelia, can you do me a favor, and can you send Swan our information on Facebook? You can even give her my first and last name if she wants to hit me up in Messenger and kind of let us know about her son's story.
Absolutely. Yes.
Thank you. So June 11th, we have this search expanding over to Sauvie Island. You know, we've got all these trained rescuers over there searching. We've got this turning into the biggest, largest criminal investigation in Oregon's history, and the biggest search for a missing person in Oregon's history. Now, a little information about Sauvie Island. It's approximately 24,000 acres. This island is about 15 miles long and about 4 miles wide, and almost the same size and shape as Manhattan. Okay. The northern 12,000 acres are owned by the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife and managed as the Sauvie Island Wildlife Area. And I have gone over that Greenway. Why am I forgetting the name of that now? It's the Greenway Refuge or whatever that's over there in one of my videos. But it is a huge island. Huge. And now they're over there focusing their search efforts over there. And it's because it's right off of Highway 30, Terry's phone. You know, they know that she's changing her story because of credit card information and because of her cell phone information. Her cell phone and GPS stuff is telling them she was somewhere else other than where she's been telling law enforcement. So there's no cell phone tower on Sauvie Island, but she pinged on the tower that's 2 miles west of the Sauvie Island Bridge. So that's one of the reasons why they wanted to search Sauvie Island. And in that clip that I played earlier with Rebecca Morris, she also mentioned Sauvie Island, and she almost made it sound like there was a witness. You have to excuse me.
Bless you.
Is that the only one? Usually I have about 5 in a row.
I know how that goes. Bless you.
Thank you. But where was I? So yeah, they're looking over there at Sauvie Island. Like I was saying, Rebecca Morris made it sound like witnesses may have seen maybe a truck or a redhead or something driving over there or something. I don't know. It did make it sound, she did kind of make it sound like they were looking over there though, because of something that somebody said. But to move forward, now we're on Monday, June 14th. So it's been about 10 days. The Multnomah County Sheriff's Office sent divers to Sauvie Island where they could be seen wading in waist-high water off of the banks of the Multnomah Channel north of the Sauvie Island Bridge. So if it's north of the Sauvie Island Bridge, they're on Sauvie Island. Because the bridge goes north and south. And the south side is closer to Highway 30. So,
and this was a really challenging area for divers to search. I've heard it described in videos and interviews as searching by touch, because literally the visibility for divers was zero. They could only feel
gross and just milky looking water. At one time they pulled a great big rug out and they unrolled it just to make sure Kyron wasn't in it. I mean, and there were bystanders seeing this because there's boathouses along this Multnomah Channel. And you've got all the farmers and everything out there on Sauvie Island. It is nothing but farmland. That entire area is nothing but farmland. And they're all searching, out there. They've got search tape everywhere. Crime tape, you name it. It's everywhere on Sauvie Island. On Tuesday, June 15th, around noon, the sheriff's dive team was spotted on a property near the Horman home because they were searching a pond that was on the property. And that was just a routine search, but it was a pond. They also searched the pond across the street from Skyline Elementary School. On June 15th, 30 billboards with Kyron's picture and information went up throughout the metro area, 10 in English, 10 in Spanish, and 10 in Russian. The billboards were donated by Clear Channel. And then that evening of June 15th, a vigil for Kyron. Again, there's some pictures in this clip of the vigil for Kyron was held at the Sunset Presbyterian Church. Tuesday, June 22nd, the Wall of Hope was created outside Skyline as a tribute to Kyron. And now they have a brick outside of the school. They got a bench outside of the school. And again, you can see there are clips here in these pictures of the Wall of Hope. There's even a picture here of Cain, who is literally broken down and upset at the Wall of Hope. It was a comfort spot for him. He would go visit it quite often because it was right around the corner from his house. It was just really sad when they had to take it down, but they had to take it down. There's stuffed animals, there's paperwork, everything's starting to look gross and,
tattered, weathered.
It was just too bad. Desiree Young, on June 25th, and her ex-husband, Kyron Horman, I'm reading this like I don't know because that's what it says, appeared on 4 network morning shows to keep their son's story in the public eye. And I'm going to pause right here and show. This has a few clips. And it wasn't these particular ones that they were talking about on June 25th. But in this, I wanted to show you guys what a nightmare it is for parents to be missing their child. And so this was one of the clips that I found that was kind of emotional and that just really spoke to me. So here, I've showed this clip before in some of our other lives. It's just, you know, she wasn't only changing her story about where she was and what she did that day after she left the school. She is also changing her story about how she left the school, what happened when she left the school, what was the last thing she saw when she left the school. You know, we've all heard her say, the last thing I saw was the back of his head. Yeah, it's Terry's a liar. I don't know what else to say. Terri is a liar. It's obvious that she's a liar. To me, in my own opinion, it's obvious to me that she is the main focus person of interest suspect in this case, because she's the only person that they have truly focused on in the past 13, 14 years, because they were able to rule out predators in the area. And, you know, after talking to parents and people up at the school and people in the community, she's the only one changing her story.
Yeah, exactly. And changing her story multiple times, sending the police on wild chases, saying she went to the craft store, which was untrue, saying she went to Albertsons, which was untrue.
Saying she got to the gym at 11:39 when she
Yeah.
wasn't seen until 12:20. There's so many contradictions in her story.
Yep.
I just wanted to pause right here. Look at their house. Look at the property. Just another reminder to everyone. We are not talking about a normal neighborhood where there's house after house after house, light posts, a road, a sidewalk, basketball hoops on everybody's driveway, cars parked in the driveway. We are literally talking about an area that's in the middle of nowhere. These people own lots of acres. They had 5 acres of land. Cain did. And this is how the area is. The entire area is like this. People own big. I did not see any neighborhoods like I just described until you get closer to Highway 26 and more towards Beaverton. And even those communities, those were only built recently. So we're not talking about your normal neighborhood. This is the area, this is the kind of area they're searching in.
What do you miss most about seeing him as a mother and father? What do you think about?
Is a very affectionate kid. He has been since he was a baby. Just the random hugs and the sounds. And he has this short hair. I always run my fingers through his hair.
He helps me shave my head and likes to rub my head for the 3 or 4 days while it's still short. Going out and feeding the cat together, our morning walks down to the bus.
So heartbreaking.
Truly, oh my goodness, just that was hard to watch. And just,
I kind of feel like Cain. If I was dreaming about my kid, I don't think that I would want to wake up in that moment. Just like he says that, you know, it's his voice in the dream. And I mean, you don't see Cain breaking down very often. And when you do, it's just so heart-wrenching to see, you know,
Yeah.
and it's just as heart-wrenching to see Desiree. And I'm not saying that it's not, but you just don't see it with
Yeah.
Kane very often.
I'm glad you mentioned the dream thing because I wanted to say something about that too, but it slipped my mind. I have had recurring dreams and like been tortured by dreams of my own, of things like, traumas and things like that. So it's a whole nother level when you have that, when it's eating you alive subconsciously when you're awake, and then when you're asleep, it's like bittersweet. Like, yes, this dream is amazing and you get to see Kyron and all that, but I imagine also it would be like, can't I get some relief from feeling this way? Like, can't I just dream of something different that just takes me away from thinking about this pain in my life constantly? Because that's how it was for me when I was having those traumatic recurring dreams. It just is like, it's your heart and your subconscious screaming to you that this is something that needs to heal. And with a missing child, there's just no healing from that. There's
it would
no
be
moving on.
It'd be haunting and almost like a nightmare at the same time. You want to fall asleep because you're seeing his face and he's talking to you, but at the other hand, it's a nightmare. It's literally a nightmare because of how heartbreaking it is. And that's why they call it trauma, because trauma is very, very hard to go through. You do deal with it throughout the day, and if your trauma is bad enough, you dream about it too. And I've been right there with you, Kaylee. I've had some horrible things happen to me in my life that I've had nightmares about and just want the stuff to go away because you almost relive it, and then you wake up and then it's on your mind all day again.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, man, that dream was either amazing and you can't stop thinking about it, or it hurts so bad you can't stop thinking about it. And yeah, I just know that dreams, you can be definitely tormented through dreams on another level.
Mm-hmm. So we are almost done with June. All of these searches that we've been talking about for an hour and 30 minutes is just June. When I originally started putting this particular live together, I've been working on it for months. It took me months. One of the reasons being because it was very emotional for me. I had to save a lot of different clips that were making me emotional. And the other thing was that I kept finding searches, more and more and more searches. It was a constant thing. But we're getting to the end, and now we're on Saturday, June 26th. At some point on Saturday, Kane moved out of the family home, taking his 19-month-old daughter, Kitty, Kyron's sister, with him. And, he moved out. He filed for divorce, and he got a restraining order because he found out about the murder for hire plot that Terri allegedly hired a landscaper to kill him months prior to Kyron disappearing. On Monday, June 28th, Terri Horman had been served with a restraining order and a petition for dissolution of marriage. Yep, and that is that. So that's the end of June. So much has happened. He's come up missing. Here's a man. He's divorcing his wife. He's filing a restraining order. He no longer feels like his daughter is safe with Terri anymore. He's finding out that she may have tried to hire someone to kill him. His entire world, besides losing his son, has completely been flipped upside down. Like 1,000% flipped upside down. On top of having to deal. Could you imagine having to go down to the courthouse? Your son's missing and you're going down to the courthouse to file paperwork to get a divorce and a restraining order? How would you even fill paperwork out? How would you even be able to sit with an attorney and tell him this is what needs to be done? Do you know what I mean? I'm sure he had help by law enforcement to try doing all of this stuff, but your son's not even been missing 30 days. And look at all the shit he had to deal with. That's insane.
Yeah.
I would never be able to keep it together to do that shit. Ever.
Yep. And I would just like to point out here that Kane left the family home And yes, Terri obviously lived there. She was a stay-at-home mom, and I'm not saying that she wasn't entitled to some marital assets, but it was in Kane's name only. She wasn't on the deed. She wasn't on the mortgage. And he left their home with a missing child. So he, like 2 weeks later, had to then force her out of the house, which she tried to fight. And he thankfully won, but in the court filings, he pointed out, I have a missing child and I need my house. I need to be in my house because if my son is found tomorrow, he needs to have a place to go home to. And the judge was like, oh yeah, and finally she agreed and she left. But what kind of person holds on to that?
He's not just leaving the house either. He's hiding. He is hiding from Terri.
Right.
Because at one point, Terri, after all of this, tries to go to the gym, tells the people at the gym, because she went there thinking that Kitty was in the daycare center at 24-hour fitness, and she's there to take her kid. So, I mean, like, he is hiding. And while Kane leaves, guess who comes? Dee Dee Spicer. Dee Dee Spicer comes, and she comes and stays with Terri. First excuse was that, you know, Terry's parents said that, you know, I needed to come and stay with her because she was getting death threats. And then the other thing Dee Dee said was she came because Terri said, what, Kalia?
Sorry, I was muted. She said, I think it was in her People magazine. No. Yeah. I think in her People magazine interview, that's where Dee Dee said that it was Terry's parents or her mom that asked her to be there. And then when she gave her interview with Blink on Crime, she says it was because Terri texted her saying, I need you now, like as a friend. But again, just strange because why Dee Dee? Out of all the friends that Terri had, Terri and Dee Dee deny having this close friendship. They say they hadn't spoken in months. Yet
hadn't spoken since Terry's birthday in March.
Yet Dee Dee's the one who Kane reached out to and asked to plan this surprise party for Terri. That's strange to me. Like, out of all of her friends, Kane chose Dee Dee to help with that. And B, why, if we're going to believe Dee Dee now, which, I mean, when liars lie, how can you believe anything they say? But when she says, oh, Terri says, come, I need you now, why is it Dee Dee? Again, when there were other friends who were going on national media on her behalf, why did it end up being Dee Dee? Out of everybody, it's just so strange.
Even Bruce McCain says, and then all of a sudden they're connected at the hips. They haven't been talking to each other. And Dee Dee said she knew for a fact that Terri didn't have anything to do with Kyron's disappearance. How would she have known that? She didn't know where Terri was all that day, supposedly, if she would have been on Westwind Farms. So let's just mention quickly that Dee Dee Spicer was missing during the same unaccounted time as Terri Horman. She goes and stays with Terri during this time for 11 days. They get caught and busted using burner phones while she is there. There is even an instance between Terri and Kane Horman's friend, Michael Cook. They're sexting each other. So they're eating Nutter Butters and they're sexting. They're sitting around in their tank tops and their underwear acting like it's some damn slumber party. Meanwhile, Kyron is missing. He hasn't even been missing a month. That's the long story short. We've got lots of lives on it. And mentioning Dee Dee in July, because these are more searches. July 15th, July 22nd, 2010, Dee Dee's condo was searched in Tualatin, and police took her computer and her phone. July 22nd, 2010, detectives and canine search dogs scoured the property of Dee Dee's aunt's house along Northwest Bishop Road in Helvetia. July 22nd, 2010, police searched the homes of 3 of Terry's friends. So now they're searching Terry's friend's property. They're searching Dee Dee's property, Dee Dee's aunt's property. They have, been looking into Dee Dee. There had been flyers that were put out with Terri Horman, Kyron, and, during the month of June. And then searchers scour the woods for Kyron clues Sunday, August 8th at 5:21 p.m. 2 vans of searchers looking for clues into Kyron's disappearance are off the Germantown roads west of Skyline. Now, Germantown roads, we've got Germantown Road and Old Germantown Road. Old Germantown Road, 13,000 Old Germantown Road is the address of West Wind Farms, where Dee Dee Spicer was working the day that Kyron came up missing. She showed up for work. She was supposed to have lunch. When they came to find her, well, she got there at 9 o'clock in the morning. She left her lunch and she left her cell phone in the car. She goes in, she talks to Ms. Hawkinsmith, which is her employer. She's told where to go out onto the property to go work that day. And that's where she heads off to. She says that she was working at the edge of the property closest to the road. Well, that would be Old Germantown Road. They go out, they search for her, they can't find her. They called her cell phone, they couldn't find her. They went out on the property, they searched for her, they couldn't find her. Dee Dee Spicer was nowhere to be seen, and a witness came forward and told law enforcement that they saw Dee Dee abruptly leave, was their words, abruptly leave the property. And she was missing. I found an old clip that said she was missing for up to 4 hours. That changes the original time that law enforcement had talked about, which was a 90-minute period of time. So that's all on Dee Dee Spicer. We caught sight of searchers out for a second day along 2 roads near Skyline Boulevard. Search teams spent all day Sunday combing areas off of Northwest Germantown Road. The terrain there is difficult and it gets even steeper the bushier the farther west that you go. Neighbors tell us this is the second full day of searching in the area, some of it in areas so steep that teams had to rappel down cliff faces in order to cover the ground completely. Indeed, neighbors say teams of searchers went through the same area shortly after Kyron went missing during the first wave of the massive searches. This weekend, however, sources said the searchers are following tips based on information given by Dee Dee Spicer. Some crews were using search dogs to go through forested areas along Germantown Road. Search teams were seen near a field off of Cornelius Pass Road, about 1 mile south of Skyline School. Crews were also seen in a field off of Cornell Road on Sunday, and crews set up a base near Kyron School and searched fields along Cornell Road. So here it is, the 8th of August, and you've got searches going on Germantown Road, Old Germantown Road, some West Hills there in that area. People are rappelling down cliff faces. You have Cornelius Pass and Cornell Road. Places around the school are starting to be searched. Like, it's August and they are still extensively searching. Then investigators resumed a ground search for Kyron Horman, and the search focused in the 2.2 mile area of Old Germantown Loop, not far from where Dee Dee Spicer, one of Terri Horman's friends, was gardening the day Kyron went missing, which I just went through. And then another massive search was renewed a couple of days after that, on the 9th of August. Investigators were expected to continue their suddenly resumed search Monday for Oregon boy Kyron Horman. Over the weekend, dozens of probers from several agencies scoured an area 2 miles from the school in a massive ground search. So this is just like flat ground search. According to the reports, it was a tip from Spicer that sparked the latest searches. And it looks like Dee Dee is opening up, said Bruce McCain, a former captain of the Multnomah County Sheriff's Department. This is not a search and rescue. This is a forensic search for criminal evidence. More than likely, something very specific that Dee Dee told them about. It could even very well been one of the untraceable cell phones that law enforcement found out about. And then Kane puts out a statement that he's living with the burden of guilt over having brought Terri into Kyron's life, saying it's my job to protect him and someone got him on my watch. So, yeah, they went crazy searching in the areas where Dee Dee Spicer worked. They were looking for Kyron in some areas, but there were particular areas where they were only looking for, there was a forensic search looking for specific items.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, they were focusing on Terri's friends. Again, just pointing out the obvious that they were really focused on Terri and, you know, her communications, who she was talking to, and that sort of thing. And I wanted to touch on what you ended your reading here about how Kane said he felt guilty and how, you know, he's supposed to protect Kyron and someone got him on his watch. It's so common for us to blame ourselves, but how would anyone really know? I mean, at the end of the day, people can be, you know, like alcoholic, like Terri allegedly was. People can be, you know, strict parents. People can be mean. People can be scandalous. They can be two-faced. They can be narcissistic. But that doesn't necessarily mean that any of those are precursors to somebody hurting your child or abducting your child or doing that to you in that way. So, you know, I don't think Kane has anything to blame himself for in this case. I mean, it's just a really unfortunate thing that happened, but really, how would he have known that any of those things, even if they were red flags, that they were red flags to this happening, you know?
Right. And I mean, before Kyron went missing, they had gotten into a fight the night before. Terri says that they were getting ready to split up and stuff. And I mean, Kane has admitted that they were getting ready to split up because there was some drastic changes in Terri the year prior to Kyron coming up missing. You know, she was going through postpartum depression. She says she was depressed, taking antidepressants. She was drinking. You know, there's been talk that maybe she was doing steroids before that. And that mixture of stuff, that's not a good mixture of stuff. That can make very very high emotions going on in that house.
Exactly. And yeah,
I mean,
it's just,
if you look at everything that she's done in California, I mean, everything she's gotten in trouble for: stealing a gun, stealing a car, you know, not showing up for court, getting a warrant for her arrest, taking a knife to someone's throat. She's not got one murder for hire. She's got 3 murder for hires, allegedly a third, but we know 2 for sure because her ex-boyfriend came forward. And then, you know, that's all happening right around the time that she goes on the Dr. Phil show, and around the same time that she went on People's Magazine to talk and stuff too. I mean, so Terri does have these manic moments. And I believe that after having the baby, taking antidepressants, especially if it's the wrong antidepressant, speaking from somebody experienced, if you have anxiety or you're depressed and you're taking the wrong medication, it can actually make things worse before making it better, or it can make things worse because you should just get the hell off of it and change your medicine. Like, I watched my mom go through that, just being on medications that didn't work, to the point of, okay, it is time for you to get off those meds. You're going a little bit crazy. So yeah, we've pretty much covered like the summer now of 2010 and what's going on. And there's a lot that's gone on, and that is a lot of searches.
Yeah,
Is
that
so
was.
many searches. And we're still not done, because in October of 2010, searchers once again start searching Sauvie Island. It turned into a focal point in the hunt for Kyron, and Mary Lindstad says that 160 searchers participated in another Sauvie Island search, and then they returned again after October 2nd on the 9th and 10th with 180 searchers returned to Sauvie Island to look for Kyron. So you have at the beginning, and then you go again. And before I go on with any more searches, let's just talk about Desiree and Kane for a moment, because these two parents are going through so much. You have Desiree trying to raise money to go out and search for Kyron. You have Kane going out there, starting the Kyron Horman Foundation. He is helping other missing children, and yeah, and mixing medications with alcohol, Zane mentions. Susie's
True.
here. Thank you so much for the live, for Precious Kyron. You were both awesome, Samantha and Kaylia. We appreciate all of your hard work. We love you. We love
Oh,
Precious
thank you.
Kyron. Thank you. I love you too, girl. But I mean, these parents are heartbroken, raising their own families, having to go to work, paying their bills, and doing everything they can to find their son. And we'll start with a clip by Kane.
About him all the time when we're wearing this stuff, when we're talking about him at home. She knows that he's not there. Her and I sit down and read just like the two of them would read when he was home. He'd come home from school, he'd sit on his bed, she'd sit in the beanbag next to him, they'd both read. And so she gives me a book, and we go sit down, and she reads next to me. I don't read to her. I read to myself, but she sits next to me and reads because she still thinks that he's there. One more.
On any given day of the week, you'll find Kyron Horman here, working out at the Extreme Edge Gym in Beaverton. It's daily stress relief before heading to work.
I would describe it as just there's all the emotions tied up in the day-to-day grieving of him not being home, and it's just coming in and it's letting out whatever happens to be in the tank that day.
His family created the Kyron Horman Foundation, which helps bring awareness to missing children. The car show was created by the foundation to have a day out with free fun for all the kids, while also letting parents know best practices for missing children and child safety. Kyron Horman is Kyron's father and the head of the car show. He says a child ID is one tool that you can use to help keep your child safe.
We're doing child IDs, so get an ID done of your child. It's got a photo, fingerprint, recent description, so parents can have those with them. If they're out at an event like this, might lose track of their child, can use those to go track them down.
He's been speaking publicly, holding events throughout the West Coast.
So we really try to look for those types of opportunities where we can go set up the awareness table of his stuff. A lot of people won't say anything, but a lot of people will come up and ask questions. And I think a lot of people just want to get an update because they don't see it in the news as much anymore. So they just want that, what's the latest? What are you guys doing? What's going on type thing. So
there's probably things that the public doesn't know, obviously. How do you deal with that anger?
I feel that she's involved. And I think a lot of people feel the same way through the evidence and information that we have, not just through gut feel, but through what we know. Even through her admitted, we've talked about polygraph failures. I mean, she's told us flat out that she failed those tests. No, they're not admissible in court, but in the general discussion of things, they're perfectly admissible. So I kind of left it there. It was, we know there's involvement, we're not going to get any help down that path, and I just kind of left that path alone. And it's always been a focus on, well, what else do we need to go do? Who else do we need to go find? As opposed to stewing on the one avenue. So emotionally, I'd left that behind a long time ago.
It is so heartbreaking to see him talk about sitting down and reading books with his daughter, and doing that with her because she misses Kyron. That was heartbreaking. And when you sent it to me earlier today, I was in tears. I was having a hard time collecting myself and told my husband I got to get my emotions in check before I have this live, because I'm going to watch that again and break down. Like, it's so heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking. It just is a reminder that when things like this happen to a person, to an innocent child, the ripples of that, and, some people might be upset that I'm about to call them victims, but Kane and Desiree and his sister, they're victims of this too. They had Kyron ripped out of their lives. Kyron was an innocent child who never deserved this, so he is the ultimate victim. But you know what I mean? The ripples of him being gone, that hurt, and those ripples, they reach far. And that's why it's like, how long is too long when a family has to wait so long? And you're hearing it right from his mouth. From the evidence we have, we know Terri is the one who is involved. We just don't know exactly what happened when they left that school that day. That's what Desiree has said. Once they leave the school, I mean, let me backtrack. As I've said before, there's that page saying that there's new evidence out there. So I just always want to say, you know what, if they have that new evidence and they really do, how long is too long, and why are we waiting? Because this family has been hurting for 13 and a half long years.
Exactly. If there's new evidence out there that proves anything, that anybody was involved and was done anything, when is law enforcement going to make an arrest? It needs to happen. It's been 13 going on 14 years. These parents are heartbroken, siblings are heartbroken, grandparents are heartbroken,
Right, exactly. Aunts and uncles. I know that he had aunts and uncles that loved him dearly. He had a lot of friends in that community that loved him dearly, and they all still to this day I'm sure are just devastated. I've even read comments from one of the schoolmates who saw Kyron leaving with Terri that morning. It was one of his good friends. Somebody had commented on his mom's post about Kyron, and they had said, I bet Carson is still haunted by this. And she said, he absolutely is. Because can you imagine, he was a young child, and the last time he saw his friend, now he knows, wow, he was going to his demise. Whatever ended up happening to him, it wasn't what he deserved. Whether she passed him off to somebody or she did something horrible to him, he never deserved any of that. And I know I'm kind of going on a little bird walk, but it has been 13 and a half long years, and that's why it's so important for all of us to keep sharing his story, keep sharing his missing flyer, keep reminding people he is still missing, because obviously the suspect who did this, they are comfortable, and there's nothing that we can do to make that any different for them. They're not going to change their mind, but what we can do is what we can do is get together and demand justice for this family after so long. And how long is too long? The district attorneys need to do something for it. It's just mind-blowing to me.
Yeah, and just as an example, like, I'm not complaining or bitching, moaning, and groaning. I'm really not. I don't want anybody to think that I am. But for instance, right now we have 8 people in our live. But when we've been covering the Michael Vaughn's case, because that happened just like 2.5 years ago, we've been having a lot more people join our lives. And this is a perfect example. Kyron's, case is not being followed as much as it used to be, because it's a very old case. It's actually, in my opinion, a cold case, and law enforcement does need to do something. They need to arrest Terri. Here's a message for you.
We're coming for you. Don't sleep. We're coming for you. Don't sleep.
Yeah, law
Amen.
enforcement is coming. So do something, make some arrests. If you have, something, do something. That's our message to law enforcement.
Right.
And we're only in 2010. I've got searches that go all the way up to 2023. They do start getting a little bit more not sporadic, fewer and further between. And when that started happening is when Desiree started, using that money that she started doing fundraisers and stuff for, to earn money to do these searches, to put searches on. And that takes a lot. You have to get the property owner's permission to search the property. You got to talk to law enforcement and let them know that you're going to be out there searching the property in case you find something, so it can be turned in and everything's done and legit. You have to have food and water for the people that come out and search. You have to pay, if you can't find volunteers to come out, for the canine units or for the searchers to come out. You have to make sure you have stuff for like bee stings. I know I heard once on one of Desiree talking about one of the searches that they did, that they had a lot of bee stings. And I'm just saying, like, there's a lot that goes into putting on these searches.
Yeah.
And she really dedicated a lot of her time, money, and effort to look for Kyron, in my opinion. She did a badass job.
She has, and I know there has been speculation because they still fundraise and they still say that they fundraise for searches, yet they don't publicize that they do searches. Yet you just mentioned that that they had searched, at least we know law enforcement had searched in 2023. This stuff isn't being publicized. When searches are being reported, it's because somebody is seeing it and probably asking in their neighborhood group or letting a news reporter know. It's not being publicized. Like, the news isn't out here saying, all right, guys, we're going to do a search now. And also, I'd like to also take a second to kind of talk about this speculation, this story I came across. Kyron advocate back in 2016 or 2017 had written this lengthy post about this drama amongst Kyron advocates and Terri supporters. It's the tale as old as time, I swear to goodness. Well, this advocate was volunteering to search, and they were highly publicizing that they were volunteering to search and that they were going on these searches for Kyron back in 2016 and 2017. And on one of these searches that they had publicized that they were going to go do publicly, when they came home, a tree that they had bought and planted in Kyron's honor from a nursery that was doing a sale for fundraising for Kyron. They had bought this beautiful, I think it was a Japanese maple or something, and planted it. It was absolutely gorgeous. And when they came home, it was killed intentionally. Somebody had trespassed on their property and killed it with like Roundup or something like that. And yeah, and there's no proof. Back then, they didn't have a Ring camera or like, Arlo cameras in their backyard like you might see nowadays. But what they're speculating about is that because I publicized this, Terri supporters went and did this to my tree in spite. And it makes me wonder if things like that make them not want to publicize that they're doing searches anymore. And that might be why we don't hear about it searches at all.
Well, Detective Tabor told me in a message just last week or the week before that one of the reasons why they don't tell everybody where the searches are is because they don't want people going behind them and searching the place, because they may want to go back to search, and they also don't want any, what did he say, persons of interest or anything to, know where they're searching. That's what Detective Tabor told me. So, I mean, there's reasons for not telling people where it is. I mean, even one of the videos that I did, I actually found a residence. It was the Claims, or I can't remember the name of the residence, but they searched a residence on Sauvie Island, and they also searched a boathouse area, and it was a boathouse that didn't have a ramp, so they weren't looking in the water. They were looking in this parking lot. They were looking down on where the boathouses were and stuff. So, I mean, their searches all mean something. You know, they're getting information, they're getting tips, they're finding reasons to continue to search. And one of the reasons that I found out there wasn't a camera on the Sauvie Island Bridge was because I kept wondering why the hell Desiree Young kept going over and doing searches on Sauvie Island if law enforcement had seen footage, you know, from Sauvie Island Bridge that proved that Terri didn't go over there. It's like, why are you still searching over there?
Yeah.
And later finding out, you know, well, there was no camera, and that's why she's still searching. And that's what led me, because I was frustrated. I sent an email to Detective Tabor, like, why wouldn't you guys be like saying something to her? Why are you guys allowing her to waste her time, money, and effort going out there and doing these searches? You know, and
Right.
yeah. So now, moving on from October, we're going into November of 2010. More than 4 dozen searchers were involved in diving into bodies of water on Sauvie Island on Saturday. So here they are again in November searching Sauvie Island. Divers returned again on Sunday. It's the first time the searches have been back on the island in about a month. So see right here, I found information about October search very briefly, and then it just mentions a month. So yeah, the month before. Volunteer diver Jason Cottle drove his own rig loaded with personal scuba gear, giving up a weekend to help search for Kyron Horman, who disappeared June 4th from Skyline Elementary School. And I don't know why I just thought about this. You know, I've talked with Susie many, many times about Rainbow Lake needing to be searched, because we could never find out any information about Rainbow Lake being searched. But because of a member inside of our group, we got told that Rainbow Lake got searched. And that's just another example, because Susie went as far as getting a hold of people to come and like emailing them, asking them to come and like go dive in Rainbow Lake, which is located in between, or it's off Highway 30 right next to Logie Road. But then it says, I'm pretty adventurous, Cottle told KGW. I like going and doing unusual things that most people are not interested in. Officials told KGW that the operation had been planned for several weeks, but they had to wait for resources to become available from other agencies. Searchers used sophisticated sonar mapping equipment over the weekend. Why sonar? Multnomah County Sheriff's Office spokesman Lieutenant Mary Lindstred chose words carefully. They're looking for items. I can't give the specifics and have to be careful. And what I say here, she said, they are using the sonar to see if there's something they need to check. Divers went into the water if the sonar picked up a signal worthy of investigation. The visibility in the canal is at best 3 feet today, Cottle said, and as soon as you make a pass, your next pass is silted up and even worse. The area has been searched on foot and by divers, on and off, ever since Kyron went missing. So here she's saying they have sonar equipment and they can't give any specifics, but they are checking on something. And this is Sauvie Island once again. And we know that the grand jury sent law enforcement back over to go search in 2017. And that's something that we just found. That wasn't something that was reported either. January 11th. So you're going from November 2010, from what we know, all the way to January 30th, 2011, so a few months later, authorities resumed the search for Kyron, but shifted it to another area in the forested hills west of Sauvie Island, saying they had new and very specific reasons. About 50 searchers and 7 cadaver dogs detecting dogs were employed. Searchers set a goal of scouring the rural areas north and west of Portland, crossing from Multnomah County into corners of Washington and Columbia counties. The search focused on several parcels of private property, mostly logging land along with Northwest Skyline Boulevard, between Rocky Point and Logie Trail Road, and around the Dixie Mountain area. So that area is where there was a witness seen up off of Moreland Road, where one of the farmers up there said, Fred Hall, he said that he saw a woman sitting in a truck up on one of those logger road gates, just sitting there, and thought it was really suspicious, and he turned it in. You know, white truck, woman sitting in it. So you've got West Skyline Boulevard, Logie Road, Rocky Point, Dixie Mountain area. It all leads up with Moreland Road. And then coming down from Rocky Point was another eyewitness that said they saw a woman in a truck pulling onto Highway 30 from Rocky Point Road. So I'm sure that was the reason why they're up there in that area searching, because the truck seen over by Moreland Road was sitting in front of the logger, and it says right here, mostly logging land along Northwest Skyline Boulevard. That's interesting because I printed this out and I never caught that. So then the weekend of March 26th and 27th, which is January, February, March, a couple months afterwards, searchers return to a stretch of Northwest Skyline Boulevard south of Rocky Point Road and a gravel road further north in the Dixie Mountain area to continue looking for Kyron, as they couldn't cover the full area in January because it's giant, you guys. These mountain roads go so far up that me and my husband's ears were popping while we were up there. And I just couldn't believe that Terri had admitted, saying that she was driving around these areas to soothe her daughter's earache, because when my ears started popping, I just looked over at my husband and I'm like, babe, are your ears popping? My ears keep popping. His ears were popping. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know why, but it just dawned on me, like, that baby's ears must have just been hurting so bad after having an earache and being up in such high elevations with her ears popping all day. So Tuesday, September 3rd, 2013. So this is a huge jump from March 26th and 27th of 2011. 2 years later, Lord knows how many searches or if searches were done in between 2011 and 2013. But this is September 3rd, 2013, video of searcher taking evidence. Desiree Young and volunteers spent 2 solid days of searching. This is one of the searches that Desiree put on and paid for with her money for fundraising. For 2 solid days of searching for her son this weekend. She said in a news conference Sunday in Portland, Oregon, calling the search successful. More than 100 volunteers, along with 10 search dog teams from around the country, joined the search effort in the Portland area, looking for evidence that might help solve Kyron's disappearance. Young was optimistic about the latest search, telling reporters, "We found a lot of things and possibly evidence," but declined to give details, citing the ongoing criminal investigation. "Everything searchers found will go to law enforcement for further examination," she said. Though Portland law enforcement was not part of the search, Young said she has been working closely with the police and has been keeping them informed. Young told the media gathered Sunday that she will not give up searching for her son. My mission has always been to bring Kyron home, and I will to the ends of the earth to do I will go to the ends of the earth to do just that, she says. Sorry. Now let's go ahead and stop right here, and we will continue the search areas. I want to throw up Desiree's clip, but I mean, these are a lot of searches going on, some pretty badass searches, a lot of people, a lot of dogs, you know, they're using sonar. What are they called? Yeah, we talked about that. The sonar,
like ground penetrating, or is it the sonar in the water?
well, like the sonar in the water.
Yeah.
You know, they're using a lot of tools. They're using everything that they can to find. Now, something else to go over, if you haven't been watching the one clip that I keep playing, because I thought it was nice to just put it up so people can see the area and stuff. But we're talking ATVs, horses. People are, you know, going down ravines on, what do you call it? Yeah, they're using ropes to go down ravines. They've got all
Repelling, sorry, I was muted.
they're repelling, and I mean, like, they're just doing a lot. They've got helicopters up in the air looking in the beginning. I mean, they literally thought of everything and used everything they could to find Kyron.
Right. It seemed to me, I've said this before, it felt like they really thought that they were that close. And that's why they were desperately using anything and had the justification to do so, because they're like, he has to be around here somewhere based on what we know happened.
Yeah, and then Death by Chocolate mentions, don't forget, like, the gash on her leg was super suspicious because it says in the book that there was a gash on Terri's leg, a gash that she says a weight fell on her leg. I used to lift weights. I'm not currently doing it, but when I was, I can tell you right now, a weight itself is not going to put a gash on your leg.
Right.
It's just not. Maybe it's going to put up a bruise or something, but it's not going to give you a gash. Nice to see you here, by the way, hun. I saw that you came in late. It's all good. And then let's just play part of this clip that I have by Desiree, because it's kind of a long one, and it's one of the last clips that I got.
Young has been searching for her son since that awful June day. This car wash is an annual fundraiser.
That side is good to be sprayed down.
For more search operations and a private investigator. Young says she is working with Multnomah County Sheriff Nicole Morrissey O'Donnell, who has a unique connection to the case. Morrissey O'Donnell's husband, Bob O'Donnell, was the lead investigator after Kyron disappeared.
When they have a personal connection to the case and have been, you know, connected to it ever since day one, I think that gives them more energy to want to solve it for us.
Young says she met with the sheriff in Multnomah County District Attorney's Office Friday. The Multnomah County Sheriff's Office says the case is open and active. Investigators are now using new software in digital forensics.
We won't give up until Kyron's found and justice is served, however long that takes.
No one has ever been charged in the case, but investigators have previously focused on Kyron's stepmother, Terri Horman. She dropped the second grader off at school the day he disappeared.
I just want to say to Terri, we're coming for you. Don't sleep. I know that if Kyron was here, he would say, thank you very much. My mission has always been to bring Kyron home, and I will go to the ends of the earth to do that, whatever it takes. Kyron's still not home. We didn't get the call in the middle of the night, and I just can't believe it. And I have to talk myself into getting up and doing it all over again another day, to keep fighting for him and to
make sure that we get answers.
Desiree and Kane Horman have never stopped trying to get answers from Kane's ex-wife. Terri is the last known person to see Kyron when she dropped the 7-year-old off at school and took this picture of him and his science project. Detectives have never named her as a suspect, but Terri's own lawyer and a judge have called her a suspect.
Hi, sweetie. I woke up from a dream today. I was startled, confused, and my heart almost stopped. It was a good dream, but as many of them start out that way, that feeling didn't stay. My realization quickly sank in. It was just that, a dream. In my dream, the police found you and called me to tell me to come quick. As I got to the place where they found you, you ran to me, smiling and crying. I remember thinking in my head in the dream, oh, please, just get to him as fast as I can before he disappears and hold on to him forever. How I loved picking you up and squeezing you and hugging you so tight and hearing that happiness in you and that smile. You looked up at me as you have so many times since you were a couple months old, and you smiled ear to ear at me. You have always been able to bring me joy just looking up and smiling. Oh, how I miss seeing that smile every day. As I woke up, I realized I was dreaming it, and then suddenly my joy sank to sadness. You are really not here. It took a little bit, but then I got a charge because I realized, again, that I have to stay focused on that smile that I miss so much. I have to stay focused on seeing that smile again one day, because I will never give up. I will never stop. The whole world misses your smile. Everyone who knows about you knows that you're missing. Everyone that looks for you every day, everyone that has ever thought about you knows your smile. That's what we are all fighting for. We are all fighting to see that smile one more time. The whole world isn't going to stop until we see your smile. I love you, sweetie. We are still fighting. We are still here with you. We are still waiting. We are waiting for the day that you will come home to us and give us that smile that melts our hearts. Love, Mama.
Thank you, Desiree.
I just can't.
I know. It's so beautiful, but so heartbreaking, and you can just feel and see the love and witness the love but that she has, and how she's just longing for her son. And she's right. His son, I mean, yeah, her son, yeah, that too, but her son's smile, Kyron's smile, it has resonated and left an impression across the world. I feel like his smile stole the world, and that's part of the reason why it captivated the world, was because he just had this beaming smile and looked like such a genuinely happy child, and he never deserved this. And yeah, that was beautiful and heartbreaking and really, really just, man.
I don't even know how she got through reading it.
I know exactly. Ugh.
I mean, what they have had to do, what they've had to push themselves to do, the suck it up underwear that I always talk about, like, wow. Just having to do everything you can to advocate for your child, reading a letter as precious as that you wrote to your son, that you are, I'm sorry, I'm choking up, that you are reading out loud in front of, an audience of people, obviously, because everybody's standing there and they're recording you and everything, but it's going to go out and hundreds and thousands of people are going to see it on the news. I mean, and she fights and she continues to fight. She does everything she can. This woman took chalk and went to Terri Horman's house and was writing things outside of the house. She knocked on Terri Horman's door. Like, go. Where's it at? Where's it at?
We're coming for you. Don't sleep.
That is right.
She kept and has been fighting for her son, going out there searching. You know, Kane Horman has started that foundation, in February of 2023. And now recently in 2024, he says that the car show thing isn't going to be happening. We don't know why. But I mean, like, they're both doing everything they can. The calendar for the Kyron Horman Foundation is all the way out to 2025. They've got things going on. And just, while I'm talking about the foundation, if you're a mama and you got young kids, or you even got teenagers, because we know there's sex trafficking thing going on in our country, and they are taking our teenage girls and boys, our young boys and girls, please, please, please go out and get one of these ID kits done. And if you can, get some blood DNA done and put it away, because blood DNA it's being used in a way kind of like, what do I want? It's like ancestry.com, but it's not
Yeah,
that. It's something else.
genetic genealogy,
And they're
investigative genetic genealogy.
Yes, and they are able to find suspects with this. They're able to find, missing people this way. So, I mean, like, if you got children, if you got teenagers, go out and do this. I've been begging my daughters, my son, to go do this with their children. It's just really, really super important. And get yourself done. There's mamas coming up missing too. I mean, this world, this day and age that we live in is not nice. And
That's so
we've got to
true.
protect ourselves. So,
while you're talking about it, while we're on this topic, ancestry.com itself does often have sales for their own DNA kits. You can have your kids take one. It's just as easy as spitting in a tube. And I mean, I bet your young kids might even think that's funny. My son might laugh if I asked him to spit in a tube. But where I'm going at is you can get it through Ancestry, and that's all fun and great. But if anybody has taken an Ancestry test, or a 23andMe, or any other commercial DNA test, you can actually help solve crimes by going online and going into the settings. You can Google this if you need instructions. There's YouTube instructions and all that. You can go and download your DNA from Ancestry or wherever you took the test, and you can upload it for free on a website that's called gedmatch.com. And that is the site that police and investigative genealogists use to build these family trees, to identify missing people, to solve crimes decades long, and these murders that happened decades ago. But the thing is Ancestry and these commercial DNA tests, they have in their terms and conditions where police can't go to them. So if you just take a DNA test and it's on Ancestry, police can't use that. So you specifically have to go and download your DNA and then upload it for free, and it's a safe website. I've had mine on there for months, or actually for years. gedmatch.com. That's how you can help solve crimes, and you never know what you can do and how you can help, and if you might be able to help solve and bring closure to a family like Kyron's. So yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there, that there's a specific way to do that. So while we were on the topic, again, sorry for the bird walk, but a lot of people don't know that. So
well, yeah, I mean, I just recently told you, like, within the last couple of weeks, I watched a couple 2020 shows, or it was Dateline or something, and I watched 2 different suspects get caught using that type of DNA.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So, I mean,
I'm so grateful for it.
That they have. And these were cases that one was like 30 years old and the other one was like 16 years old, but definitely a good thing to do. And it protects you, it protects your children. So everybody just watch your back and go do what you need to go do, because you don't want to be, thank God Kyron already had his done, because Tony had actually done these ID kits before Kyron went missing, so
Yeah.
they were able to produce that to law enforcement. But I mean, if your child comes up missing and you don't have anything, and also keep regular pictures of your child, that's why it's really important. I know they make it really spendy for school pictures, so take random pictures of your child doing certain things, or even keep videos of your children, because it really shows their mannerism.
Yep, exactly. That's a great point.
So now moving on from 2013, a search that Desiree did, June 20th, 2014, Desiree Young says it's every single day, every single second, said Desiree Young. I think about him. I talk to him on the drive to work, whatever I'm doing. Young will lead another private search for Kyron this weekend. She organized a similar search effort last year. Both searches have been paid for through Young's fundraising. What we're hoping for, obviously, is evidence that may lead us to Kyron, said Young, or evidence that Terri may have left out somewhere. This weekend search will be focused in the general area of Skyline Elementary. Although the search is private, Young says she'll be working closely with investigators to protect the integrity of the investigation. So again, this is another search put on by Desiree Young using her fundraising money that she is, doing car washes and all kinds of stuff. Because there are Terri supporters out there that want to say that she's out there raising money, but she's just spending it on herself, going shopping, manically shopping, they say, and that she's buying herself new cars and everything else. Well, you know what? Tony works. Tony is also a retired detective, I believe, and that comes with retirement money. I mean, she's always worked. They do have money to do these other things. They're not just using Kyron Horman Foundation money or her fundraising money. It's ridiculous to talk about. It's ridiculous that other people talk about it. These are Terri supporters that want you to believe that's what's going on, so that you'll get sidetracked when, you're...
My two things about that is it's people's prerogative if they want to donate it to Kyron Horman family or not.
Mm-hmm.
So who the F cares? First of all, it's not, and then second of all, don't people do GoFundMes all the time and stuff like that for like tragedies? I guess I know, I just don't feel like, why all of a sudden is Kyron Horman's parents being scrutinized when this is common? I mean, I know that a lot of people make GoFundMe when something tragic happens in their family.
And these Terri supporters from this other place has been doing GoFundMes and stuff. Just an FYI. I mean, everybody does GoFundMe. Everybody, there's different reasons why people are raising money. I believe by what you see and what you read and the emotion coming from Desiree and Kane, where that money is going. I feel like it is going where it's supposed to be going. And if it's just sitting somewhere and accumulating somewhere, maybe it's waiting for another search. Or maybe, like she says, that she's waiting to hire a private investigator. So,
or maybe she has. I've wondered, that information doesn't have to be brought forward to us. And there is reasons why. Like you said, like Detective Taver told you, there's reasons why they don't want to give all their hand away. I mean, there's strategies involved in an investigation. I mean, and you also heard Desiree herself say, what would Tony say? What would Tony tell me? What would Tony tell me? Don't ruin the investigation. Right. Don't ruin the investigation. Like, obviously, this is a conversation they have between the two of them. And yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. No offense to the Terri supporters if they're listening or if they're on the replay, but I I don't know. It just seems like Desiree and her detective husband have nothing to worry about, and you really should worry about yourself in
Right.
regards
And
to monetary and stability and all that. Okay, look in the mirror and don't be putting your nose in other people's lives, personal lives. You have no idea what they've gone through, and so yeah, I'm just putting that right directly to them. It's ridiculous.
yeah, it's gross to attack parents of a missing child. And they could use that money to help pay for their attorneys too. Attorneys aren't friggin' cheap. Hello?
Yeah,
They're not
exactly.
friggin' cheap.
Or maybe they're
So,
donating it right to Multnomah County. Or maybe that we just don't know. And
well, if she
it's,
was money hungry, she wouldn't have taken the money from the book Boy Missing to donate to other missing children.
yeah.
I mean, that's what she did with the money from the book. And I know hundreds of people that have bought the book. And the book ain't really cheap. I mean, it was around, I want to say 12 to 15 bucks, but still, I'm just saying, like, she was offering to give all that money up. So, yeah,
exactly. I'm with you on that.
So September 5th and 6th of 2015. So we've got a search done by Desiree in 2013, 2014, and then now we're September 5th and 6th, 2015. Latest search for clues started on Saturday and will wrap up on Monday. Young said this is another search done by Desiree. She did not comment on any specifics about clues, but said this effort was more strategic than any others in the past. At first, you kind of throw this wide net out there, she said, but you really learn how to hone in on areas that you think are more critical. Young indicated some of those critical locations were areas traveled by Terri Horman. She said teams with specially trained dogs from as far away as Florida were used to zero in on key plots of land. Young said she has learned more about Terri's behaviors and thinks that it is the key to solving this horrible mystery. One of the searchers on Saturday came across a set of bones in the woods near Sauvie Island, but that did not turn out to be a break in the case. About 2 hours later, a medical examiner determined the bones to be non-human. The search isn't over. On Sunday night, crews will be mapping out where to look Monday. So again, you have her using her foundation money. I don't know why I had David Derman in there. We're not talking about him anymore because he is from Bleak on Crime. That's how old this is. That's how long I've been working on this. And so we know in 2017 that the grand jury asked the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office to go over to Sauvie Island and search it again. We don't know the reasoning of why, but we did find out that information. And then May 18th, 2017, the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office is quietly coordinating ground searches. Detectives are analyzing new computer evidence, and a grand jury remains impaneled in the Horman case. We're pretty excited about the work that they are doing. The level of work and the amount that's been going on, said Kyron Horman, Kyron's father. It's still extremely busy. We're pretty excited about the work that they are doing, the level of work and the amount that has been going on, said Kyron Horman. It's extremely busy. Oh, I don't know why I repeated that. Over the past few months, search and rescue crews have quietly conducted searches in connection with the Horman investigation. There have been recent searches as recent as March and April that are going to be more searches in the future, said Young. So here in May of 18th, 2017, it says that there had been recent searches as recent as March and April. So March, April, and now May 18th. That's 3 months in a row in 2017. In late September of 2016, searchers from several police agencies scoured an area along Highway 30 near Sauvie Island. This is a search that was going on while Terri Horman was doing her interviews with Dr. Phil. The Multnomah County Sheriff's Office would not comment on what investigators were looking for, whether they found anything, or what led them to search the location in Northwest Portland. So now you have March, April, and May, and it's also mentioned September of 2016. So that year was a good year, you know, for law enforcement to be going out and Desiree to be going out searching. Then the weekend of July. So now you have May, skip June, and July 9th, 2017, Northwest Springville Road was closed from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Sunday between Skyline Boulevard and Northwest 128th Avenue for more searches. Volunteers with search and rescue team combed through thick bush Sunday along Northwest Springville Road. The terrain is going to be an issue for our search team, hence the reasons why we had to close down the road, said Multnomah County Sheriff's Office Sergeant Brandon White. There's no shoulder, it's a curvy road, but also one side is fairly steep going down. So for safety, fairly steep going down, so safety is number one for the search and rescue team. It's a continued investigation. We will continue looking and doing the best job that we can do. Over the past few months, search and rescue crews have quietly conducted searches in connection with the Kyron Horman investigation. There have been recent searches as recently as March and April. There are going to be more, Desiree says. So now, 2017, 2016, 2018, and now June 2019, Desiree says we're looking into key areas, search areas, have been narrowed down to less than 100 acres. Young said she couldn't reveal where the search has centralized. Young said police have new evidence related to computer and phone activity. She confirmed law enforcement has conducted several searches in the past 9 months at undisclosed locations. So that's searches from October of 2018 up to this interview with Desiree in June of 2019. We've got new technology, Young said, and things are changing all the time. Young also announced that she has been working with best-selling author Rebecca Morris to write a book about the disappearance of her son, The Search for Kyron Horman. Desiree is to release the book and share new details about the information, and Young said that any money she receives from the book will go to a nonprofit that aims to help missing children and their families. And then after 2019, we found out about the search that was done in, March of 2023. And that's the last search that we know about. And that's after the new woman sheriff over in Multnomah County that took over in January of 2023.
Yeah. Nicole Morrissey O'Donnell, I believe, and she's married to the detective that was originally assigned to the case. The detective that, if you guys have been following a long time, he's the one who was at the press conference in August in the early days who revealed the truck parked on the access road, and also said there were witnesses who had came forward and said that there may have been another person at the truck that day. That is her husband. So he has, just like Desiree said in the clip she showed, we would hope that he also, even though he's retired now, still carries that knowledge with him and still has a personal vested interest, especially if his wife is the sheriff. We can only hope. And it would be awesome if she brought this home.
Yeah. love the fact that she was married to the original detective on the case, because he has firsthand knowledge of the beginning of this investigation. He knows what Terri Horman said, what she did, where she said she was traveling, and everything. Like, all of that is key information.
He probably interacted with her directly. I mean, that is
That's
very,
what I mean.
very,
Like,
yeah.
interviewing her, talking with her, knowing her personality, knowing, kind of where to point his wife or where to look if she gets like caught up in something else. I mean, even though they say that he shouldn't be getting involved because case whatever. I mean, we've got retired FBI agents working on this. We have retired police investigators working on this. I've been told that.
Yeah.
So, and it's out in the media besides me being told.
Yep, it is
so
out in the media.
Retired or not, it is really amazing that she can go home and talk about it and have somebody there to talk about it with that has firsthand knowledge of Kyron Horman's case and when he first disappeared. That's amazing.
Right. And you know what? I mean, who knows what he also came back and said back in the day? Who knows? But yeah, it definitely is. I feel like that's lucky. I follow her on Facebook. Honestly, I'm constantly in the comment section rooting for Kyron's justice. And I do believe that, I believe anybody that lives in the Portland area and has lived in the Portland area for a long time has a heart for Kyron Horman and like wants to see justice. It's kind of like a community-wide wound, like this was something that impacted all of us firsthand. I was younger when he disappeared, but I distinctly remember that summer when he had disappeared and like hearing all the revelations and all that. And like, I know how that felt, and I know how that unknown was. We all were just hoping that he would be found.
I remember the parents. All of the parents were scared to death because this happened. They were wondering if there was an abduction at a school and nobody wanted to let their kids go to school. I remember his great big smile and glasses and big ears, and I was instantly hooked, instantly following the case, wanted to know everything there was to know about Kyron Horman, what had happened, following along in the news. I even later on saw people talking in groups and stuff. They'd actually thought that Kyron had been found because of rumors, or that his glasses had been found, or that somebody had picked up on Kyron's death scent in the water around his property.
Thanks to Harry Oakes for the rumors.
I mean, it's been a tragic situation that people ended up turning it into an even more tragic situation by attacking the parents, spreading rumors, and Terri is the biggest one, the most responsible person for all of that, because of the way she was trying to control the narrative and spit out all of the stuff early on. When they just start their investigations, she had law enforcement looking here, there, and everywhere. And it wasn't even where they needed to be focusing on because of things that she was saying to them, where she was, what she was doing. Or, like the book says, the janitor was suspicious. I got told by a member in our group that the janitor was looked into really heavily because he was kind of creepy, and they looked into him for a few months and then just dropped it because all fingers were still pointing at Terri. Terri was the one changing her story, changing where she was and what she did that day. I mean, driving in the car, going down the road, being Desiree, seeing Terri Horman, I don't know if my foot would have hit the brake or hit the gas. Come on. For real.
I think any one of us would think twice as well. I cannot blame how she feels about Terri or how at all. Honestly, you might wonder, like, who knows, when Terri was slipping up back in 2016 and 2017, maybe it was, I used the word slipping up here because maybe she was slipping up due to pressure from Desiree. Desiree has kept such a pressure on Terri, and imagine any mom or any parent. I know I would be doing the same dang thing.
Well, and you know what? Gut instincts mean something. Police detectives use their gut instincts sometimes. Her gut instinct was pointing her in one direction, and yeah, she's following that gut instinct. And your instincts are there for a reason. That's why they're called instincts. You're supposed to follow them.
Oh yeah,
And that's
exactly.
what she's been doing.
Yep. I have described her as a flame that cannot be put out because I truly feel that way. She is going to be one of the main reasons that Kyron gets justice one day. I know Kane loves his son. That's evident. But you can't deny that if it weren't for Desiree and her two friends and advocates, Stacy Green and I believe the other woman's name is Beth, and then people like us, you and me, and our viewers here tonight who are constantly sharing and engaging. If it wasn't for all of us, it would, Kyron's story wouldn't be even talked about as much as it is now. Although we all want it to be talked about more, I still feel like after 13 years, he still does get a good amount compared to maybe some other kids that have been missing for the same amount of time.
Well, Kyron wasn't being talked about much until I would say 3 years ago. And then all of a sudden, Facebook groups started exploding again. And
I'm grateful for that. So glad.
Talk inside the discussion groups and stuff started exploding, which caused people to make new Facebook's group, which, caused more awareness, more sharing of the flyers going around. I know you're hanging up flyers. I'm hanging up flyers. If you guys want flyers of Kyron, come over to Kyron Case Revisited Discussions and Case Studies on Facebook. Kalia can send you flyers.
No cost to you. Yep. We can get flyers all over the country. Seriously, that would be amazing. Think about how impactful that could be. We always say, well, you never know what that one missing puzzle piece is and who has it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just, wow. Let's just play this.
We're coming for you. Don't sleep. We're coming for you. Don't sleep.
I found a new way to play videos over and over again. I don't know if I just want to keep playing it or if I keep wanting to just hear it like we're coming for you, because that's literally the one and only time you see Desiree since Kyron's came up missing, with a pep in her step and a smile on her face, like she knows something's coming. And I just keep holding on to that, like something's got to be coming, because she just looks like something's coming and I want it to come. Like, come on, law enforcement, let's, do something.
Seriously, I always say, how long is too long? And we're getting to that point where it's like, come on, you are sitting on some dang good evidence.
Yeah, and I mean, Detective Tabor said that the number one thing that we can do to bring awareness for Kyron is to keep passing out flyers and bringing awareness to him, especially in his community, since it's a local, I'm going to say that again, a local search and investigation. Unless there was some kind of real good tip that led them somewhere else, this is a local investigation. I mean, that's where it's staying. It's not overseas. He didn't get sex trafficked. He didn't get sold.
Terri walked out of him that day. Yep.
Yeah, Terri walked out with him that day. That's what happened. Where did he go after that? Is he in the ground? Did he go in a river? Is he alive sitting with someone? Kane has mentioned that he believes that Kyron could be with someone. I mean, we don't know if he's dead or alive, but he's out there somewhere. And whether he's dead or alive, he needs to come home,
Absolutely.
And Terri needs to start talking. or Dee Dee needs to start talking.
Especially if
Casual
it's
wine,
true that she has
she is,
immunity.
yes, especially if she has immunity. Like, why aren't you talking if you have immunity? Start replaying now. It's midnight here. Thank you for coming, Casual. We appreciate you. She has also been going to the gym. Didn't like her weight, so I could doubt if she was using steroids, allegedly. Oh, yeah, I wouldn't doubt it either. Desiree is definitely Kyron's biggest supporter in getting him justice.
Yes. Yes,
It has been an amazing life. We appreciate everybody for coming. I hope that it wasn't too much information for everybody to grasp, but there was a lot of searches to go over. I'm really super happy that I finally got to do this live and I can sit it on the back burner and know that I was finally able to go over these searches. We will update if any other searches are found.
Right.
But it took me months and months and months to find all of these searches. And then one search would lead to another search and one search to another search. I mean, even in this pile here, I still didn't get to the other search that was done over on Sauvie Island when they went from the residence house over to the boathouses. And that's not even in this information. So, I mean, like, there's a lot of searches, you know, and while looking today for clips and news clips, I was seeing things as recent as 3 years ago, 2 years ago of them being on the news. The car wash incident was just from, you know, this last summer. Desiree is out there. Terri, don't sleep. Like, we're coming for you. That was just this last summer. So
Yeah.
we've got a new sheriff in town. We have Terri Horman now talking. Out loud in public on Facebook groups and stuff. We have, you know, a new search in March. We have Kyron Horman not wanting to do any more car shows last year or this year. And then we had, and during the same time, Stacy Green from the other Facebook group saying that there's evidence that's came out about Dee Dee being responsible for killing Kyron for Terri Horman. So, and I mean, that's huge because Desiree's in that group and she's not correcting anything that Stacy Green says in that group. So that's really telling. And with the fact that there's no more car shows and just everything else that's happening, I don't know. We talked about this during our last live. If you guys want to continue, again, I'll just put Kyron up here. And Kyron came up missing on June 4th, 2010 from Portland, Oregon. He has a mole. Oh my gosh, am I going to get this wrong? I don't have it in front of me. It's the right side?
I believe so.
I want to say it's the right side underneath the eye and one up above the eye. And let's not forget, Kyron Horman isn't 7 years old anymore. That's how old he was when he came up missing from Portland, Oregon. He would be 20, almost 21. He could have long hair, short hair, tattoos, colored hair, a mustache, a beard. He could look completely different. He could have piercings. So we're not looking for a 7-year-old child. We're looking for a man now. Yes. And he does have those 2 distinctive birthmarks or moles on his face. So if you have any information about Kyron Horman and his whereabouts, if you have any information about Terri Horman, Terri Vasquez, Terri Moulton, however you want to say her name, she drove a red Mustang with a license plate, red squirrel. And she was also driving the extended cab Ford F-250 during that time. If you have any information about her, Dee Dee Spicer, Kyron's whereabouts, please call Multnomah County Sheriff's Office at 503-988-0560. No tip is too small. You can call and be anonymous. If you're scared, get a hold of us. We will help you, direct you in any way we can to help you get that tip in. We know that Detective Tabor is a really nice guy, so, you know, sorry, something popped up on my screen. He's a really nice guy. You guys can, you know, call and talk to him. Yeah, no tip is too small. Don't be scared to call. Let's see. Don't sleep, stepmom. Thank you. That's by our admin, Susie. We've got Death by Chocolate saying, great job, ladies. Thank you so much. And thank you for being here. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Please don't forget to subscribe. We're not monetized. We're not trying to do that right now. We're just trying to get subscribers so that, you know, we can bring more awareness to Kyron. That's what we need to do, is bring more awareness. And it really helps us to bring awareness to Kyron and any of the other missing children that we put up on our panel by having more members. The more members we have, the more YouTube wants to show it, and it's easier for people to find. And we are, you know, famous for spur of the moment lives like today and the other two that we had this week. So hit that notification bell if you want to be notified of our lives. And thank you all for joining. I hope everybody has an amazing rest of their weekend. Let's listen to this one more time.
We're coming for you. Don't sleep.
2 more times.
We're coming for you. Don't sleep.
How about 3 more times?
We're coming for you. Don't sleep.
I love everyone. I love all the Kyron supporters. Thank you guys for being here and supporting us, for being here and supporting Kyron and his family. Please say a prayer for these parents. They go through so much. They're living their everyday lives on top of trying to find and search for their son. Let's God bless Kyron tonight. Shout out to the family. We're here for you. Our panel's here for you if you ever need us. Good night, everybody.